Okay, I think we're live again. Gotta love Zoom. Okay, so April, I was just asking you about the early stage of building a sales team, and it's that tricky bit where should the founder do the sales? Do they start to look at and this is obviously in circumstances where you need sales to sell rather than it just being on the website. Do they start looking at commission only salespeople, and then how do they start to develop that team? So over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I personally believe that any founder should be able to sell their product because no one is going to be the evangelist for it that you are. And I also think that it puts you in a unique position to hire good salespeople if you're not hiring someone to do something you're afraid of. Because just from a sheer mindset perspective, you cannot hire your way out of what your fears are because you won't be able to tell if that person is really going to be able to perform or not. So being able to get those reps under your belt to really learn what the message is going to save you a lot of time in scaling your sales team. So initially, I think the founder should be involved in those sales. And later down the line, even as you scale your sales team, then having that founder involved, it closer to the end when you're looking to close the sale, feels really good to early clients, to clients later on, and you can really add value at that point. As far as bringing on salespeople that are commission only, the only time that really works is when you have a company or product that has a short sales cycle. Because unless someone has been a super successful salesperson, they have a great savings, maybe they don't have a family, they're single, working for commission only is something someone would be able to do and willing to do for a few months, but then they're going to need to be compensated. And most of your best salespeople are used to having a decent salary, right? Even up to the six figures if they're really good at what they're doing. Again, this depends on how high tier of something you're selling and then getting the commission on top of that. So it is really important, again, for the founder to be able to sell, to build up that level of revenue so they feel comfortable bringing on a salesperson. And I would also suggest that in the beginning, when you bring on those first salespeople, that you're selling together, both so you can coach and give them feedback, and also because at that point, they're not going to have all the client stories that you do. They're not going to have the things to share that you will, and they'll learn them through selling alongside you. And then they can use those as our stories. We helped this client do that. We have seen this experience until they have their own stories from working with clients themselves.
Awesome. Okay, yeah. So yeah, super interesting. So like that's the the key message here is whether you like it or not, as a founder, you're going to need to get out there and get in front of clients, because it isn't always like something that a lot. If you're working with specialists in something, they're really good at delivery, but they feel uncomfortable in that sales kind of role. So
100%. And it's a big leap, but I will tell you that it is so worth the effort and overcoming that fear because the results that you get from that are incredible. And it's one of those things that if you absolutely don't think you can, then this is the time that maybe you tap someone else in your company who is better at doing that forward facing story. And maybe you go with them as the subject matter expert and they lead the quote unquote sales part. But ultimately, if we look at selling as helping people instead of selling people, right? You have a problem and I'm going to offer to help you with it. Then it starts to feel better because people like to buy. And any of us who don't like sales, it's probably because we had a pushy, terrible salesperson once or 100 times in our lifetime. So if you look at it instead as I'm going to help people by providing value and they will choose to pay me in return for that value, it can make it less daunting.
awesome, yeah. And do you recommend using scripts, or do you think that that can be you know a bit wooden?
I think it can definitely be wooden for those people who feel like they really need a guideline. I'm fine with talking points. But as soon as you get scripted, I tune you out. I don't know, gentlemen, for the rest of you, if someone, you pick up the phone and you can tell they're reading a script, it's like, how do I get off this call without being rude? So talking points much better. Even if you don't think you're a great communicator, you're going to communicate better when you're actually focusing on that person and not a script in front of you.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
I'd like
Mark.
to add to this. Yeah, absolutely. April, you're so right here. And what I've actually spotted is so many stuff. Like when you're selling, it's never about the actual sale. It's about educating the client. The best sale is when you, just like you said, provided value. And the way that you do this is you teach them things that they don't know. And this is what really worked for me every time. Um, and it's also what works for our clients. Basically, when you're trying to sell your product, whether through your website or on the phone, you have to educate them about something that is relevant to them. And this definitely provides value. And also automation is key here. If you have some channels that you can automate, for example, let's say that it didn't go well on your first call. Well, it's good to follow up, but not necessarily be annoying. Instead, again, provide value and just be there. Just hey, by the way, here's a little bit more value, and you don't do this like every day, just every week, like for 2 to 3 times, just do a small follow-up just to see if the interest is still there, and then just let go. Sometimes, after 5 calls or 5 touch points past the initial conversation, it can close. So never give up on a very prospective client. Yeah, so that's my take on it. And just another thing, sorry. When you're trying to scale your company with salespeople, it's really important to understand that you have to be the one with the hands in the mud. You have to understand what actually are the reactive sales points when you're doing your pitch, which is unscripted. This is the best way of doing it. And if you're gonna scale, well, someone's gonna be trying to copy you right next to you, or maybe sitting inside of your call conversations and just trying to mimic you on other calls. It's also good to record the conversations of your salespeople if you do have them, so that you can pinpoint the mistakes. And there are software for that you can automate with. You can tag them. You can use them as trainer calls for other inbound or outbound salespeople on your team. So definitely there are tools that you can check out for that. Yeah.
Right. I was going to say the not yet. So Carol Dweck's kind of concept, like with learning, it's not yet, but yeah, I guess with sales or a no is just a not yet. So, Jose, did you have
Yeah,
any thoughts?
I've got something to contribute here because especially during the pandemic and post-pandemic, we had to jump on calls like this to sell. So even today, I'm getting some good clients, big businesses that want their teams retrained because once they are here, they go into presentation mode. They have kind of, if they don't have a script, they actually have all the slides that, they want to take people through. And on occasions, there's only maybe 2 people on the call. So if they lack that ability to have a conversation that leads to a sale, okay? And I love, that's the best way to approach it in my own experience as well. That's why I teach, is at the end, you're going to help them decide or make a decision that is going to improve their lives. That is what I'm thinking about. Many people say the sales process is, the numbers game. Yes, I mean, you just need to do a few until you get the hang of it. But I see it as a puzzle. So you got all of these pieces that you're putting together with that human being right in front of you, really understanding what their pains are, and so you understand their needs, where they're coming from, with curious questions, and at the same time being candid, not stepping back. I mean, if you want to push a little bit, see, gauge, but you're coming from a place of caring. In that way, you can really establish a lovely conversation, and with a purpose, of course. One question I always like whenever I see people, it's just, well, look, just because I know time is important and all of the above, what has to happen for us to do business? Simple question. What has to happen here for us to do something together? And at that moment, if you build good rapport, they're going to tell you, well, yeah, I'm lacking, I'm not sensing this, I'm not sensing that, because one of the things that happens during the sales or the sale process is the lack of trust. And that's where the objections happen, because they don't trust you yet. So if you ask them, look, I sense there's still a bit of a lack of trust here. What can I do to earn that trust? How can I add another trust coin into the piggy bank for a conversation? There's loads of things, but then this happens naturally as human beings, being here instead of me just, putting all the slides and having all of them. And April mentioned this, having the case stories that generally will come from the founder or people that have been doing it for a while. And then you start weaving in those stories, and that creates natural connection, and people can see clearly how they can benefit from what you've got, instead of being, pitching the benefits and the features and all of these things to them. So have a human conversation, especially if you are, well, everywhere, but especially if you're in a place like this, virtual.
Yeah,
It's
no,
a great
absolutely.
point. It's a great, well, and I think the one thing that I would be wrong if I didn't mention is we have to make it okay for them not to buy. We have to say, this may not be a good fit for you. And if it isn't, that's okay. Because what we don't realize, unless we think about it when we're in their shoes, is when it feels like someone is selling something to us, we feel pressurized. We feel pressure to say yes. The moment you take that pressure off, then they're choosing to stay. And, you can't make a sale happen. Bob Berg, the author of the Go-Giver, he and his co-author, John David Mann, did just an incredible job of teaching to sell by helping. And one of the things that they say is you can facilitate a sale. You can help someone get something that they need, but you can't make a sale. So I have found, and I've been at the top of two very large sales organizations, and I have never been an ABC, always be closing person. I have been, and I think, Jose, you're the same way, always be helping, right? And Mark and Natan, that's what you're looking to do. You're helping your client, you're helping your prospect. So let's help them whether they do business with us or not. And if they don't, that's okay, because that leaves a space for the person who's going to.
Awesome.
Beautifully said.
Nitan, did you have any thoughts on this?
I guess most of the things have been covered, so I'll keep this short. Only two things from my side I want to like reiterate or add. So one thing to answer your original question, yes, founders should do the same, because as a founder or a solopreneur, you do understand that your product better than anybody else. So you should start with that. Second, I feel that salespersons are generally good storyteller, right? And even the great founders I see in the history, or see, or everybody around me, I can see that they are good storyteller. So if you are a salesperson or if you're an entrepreneur, maybe you should I guess that is one of the reason I watch so many movies. So if you are a sales guy or a salesperson, I would see read a bit of stories, watch some stories, and try to be a good storyteller, because people may forget that what this product does. People tomorrow may forget that what I do as an entrepreneur, but they will remember my story as they go home and see that if they relate to my story, if they see what my journey has been or what my product journey has been. If my product has a story, then amazing, because some of the time I work with brands, and the first question I ask everybody who wants to work with me, that tell me your story, why you have started this business. We will talk about ads, we will talk about analytics later on, but let me understand that why you build this business, not anything else. So one of my recent client, he told me 1.5 hour story for their apparel product, why they design the products the way they do, and what is the philosophy behind it. Because once you understand it as a marketer, once you understand it as a customer, you are not going to leave that company forever. You keep buying that product, you keep suggesting or voting for that product. So yes, to summarize, yes, founders should do sale, and storytelling is an art that salespeople or as a founder we should focus on.
Great, love it. You happy if we move on? Is there any other comments on this piece? Okay? We've probably got about five or so minutes left, but I want to just Mark, is there anything you would want to add regarding digital marketing, like spend, and because we have touched on it through this conversation, but I mean, I know that there's you've got so much knowledge in this, so yeah, what would you say for people if they're now starting to get to the stage where they can do ad spend?
Sure. So it's important to understand the basics, because if you're dealing with companies that outknowledge you, then you might overpay. So it's good to just know a few baselines about advertisements, such as what is a CPC, what is a CPA, what is a CPL? Is there a difference between CPL and CPA? No, there's not. It's just the way that you call it. But you have to kind of understand the basics so that you don't get outplayed, because there's unfortunately a lot of fishy agencies out there. And we just dealt with one that just got robbed, basically, based in Australia. They came in and they say, they overpaid like 10x for something so basic. And, it hurts me to see clients come through that are very genuine, like human beings, decent people that are trying to build a business and they get robbed. But why do they get robbed? It's because they don't have basic knowledge. So if you can educate yourself maybe just a little bit on YouTube or maybe on articles, it would be really nice if you're starting to spend money. Now, once you get comfortable with the terms, the structures, what is an ad network, why should you do A/B testing, stuff like that, you will try to understand, and you will see the efforts that agencies or individuals, which are freelancers or maybe just a bunch of teams, would bring as an effort to you. So that is really important. Like that's the baseline. But once you do understand this, it's really things become so clear to you. Let's say that you're starting to do campaigns, you will see your threshold of risk at some point. So you would understand, for example, when would you need to use segments? Why would you need to use analytics? Or why would you want to automate your funnel? What the hell is a funnel? And how do I build up a funnel? How do I invert the funnel? People get so confused in all of that, but it's not that confusing once you get to read it, test it. And of course, you're going to burn yourself if you're starting off. There is some burning there, and you just have to accept it. Like, just know in the back of your head that you are going to burn like 1.5K on ad spend, and it's going to hurt, but it's going to provide you data. That's what you want. It's going to provide you the knowledge, and from that, you can take it and build something much better, in the second steps. So yeah, this is my take on it, basically.
No, great, love it. Does anyone else want to jump in with any thoughts on ad spend or?
Yeah. So as Mark rightly said, that you should start educating yourself and start understanding the basic parameters of digital marketing. I just wanted to add a bit on how do you analyze your report, or how do you analyze that where you are heading. So I'll give a very brief example on this. So if today I go to a client and say that, boss, you got 10 sales today, or maybe if you get 100 followers today. For a small company who is starting up, he will say, great, let's have a coffee or maybe beer, let's celebrate, we are okay, heading to a good start. But somebody who has established, he will say, what, man, I mean, this is peanuts for me. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to have the right benchmarks. What is my weekly sale? What is my monthly sale? What is my lifestyle sale? All these sales with average daily numbers. Only then you will know that 100 numbers that you have added today, that 100 followers, or maybe that 10 sales, is it a good number or a bad number? So when I go to my client meeting, I ask this question to everybody. So if I get you 10 sales today, are you happy? So generally they say, okay, I'm happy, I'm not happy. Then I ask, the next question would be, how do you decide? Because you have to have good benchmarks, carefully selected benchmarks, and only with those benchmarks you will decide whether you are heading to the right direction or not. Mostly I could see that people look at the numbers, but end results are mostly subjective. So if they feel good about that number, then it's fine, but if they're not, then it's not fine. So yeah, numbers are good, learn about it, but as a beginner, as a starting point, have the right benchmarks.
Great.
I wanted to add just one little thingy. When you're scaling from month to month, it's important that you try to do a 5% optimization of your CPA month over month, or at least like 5 to 10%. The compound effect after 1 year is great scale. So if you can just find little itsy bitsy thingies that you can change in your campaigns that can drop the cost per acquisition, you're gonna win on the long term. So that is like the key. Just small little iterations that drop the acquisition costs. You're gonna scale.
Awesome. Couple minutes left. Like, Nitin, I'm just interested. Like, it's almost, is anything that could have ever been written out there now? Is as a philosophy. There's a lot of things that's being written, online. So you obviously look at analyzing what's trending, what resonates with people. That can be really powerful for small businesses that maybe don't have the time, or maybe don't have the inclination to create content. So what's your I guess just give us a bit of an insight into that exists, right? You can analyze certain platforms.
So as I said that for analysis, benchmarking is good. So you can do your own benchmarking. You can benchmark your competitor. So you can start with that. And you should always choose your competitor very carefully. So if you are starting out today, you cannot say that Amazon is my competitor, right? Because that company is decades ahead of you. So you have to like, I ask this question to my like people I meet, and most of them they are not getting their competitors right. So you have to choose your competitor at the stage you are in, and once you choose your competitor, benchmark them, benchmark their content, because you can go to Google Trends, look at the general industry trend. There are free tools available on Vazel. You can go there, analyze what type of content working for them on Facebook, what type of content working for them on Twitter, what type of content working for them on Instagram. You can do that for free. Go there, analyze that, and then you will have a fair amount of idea that if something is working for my competitor, once I chose my right competitor, then this is something that I might have to look into. So you know, that is one of the easiest way, or I would say the first thing that you would do as a digital marketer or as a marketer. And the basic SWOT analysis that I guess all we are familiar with from the finance background, that should also be done in the marketing side as well. Once that is sorted, you will have clear pointers that okay, this is something I need to do when I'm starting out.
Great. Okay.
And
Thanks,
yes,
Hassan.
there is another free tool available. Go to Ads Library. There's free tool, Facebook Ads Library. Search any brand, you will find ads of that brand. So you know what they are advertising on, what is their messaging, what percentages of they are giving, what SKUs they are promoting. So every information is for free. You can look at those ads, and then you know that okay, these are my pointers, and this is how I build my strategy.
Brilliant. All right, thanks for that share, Nitin. Like, we'll put it into the comments so people can go and see it as well. Right at the end now. So I'd like to, in 20 words and less, we'll just go around the room. What advice would you give a founder, maybe me, who wants to drive growth before the brand is necessarily like established? So start with Mark. Less than 20 words and less if you can.
Wow. All right. Well, I think having beautiful landing pages that actually convert, because half of your success is your campaigns, the other half is the face of your website. So make sure that you work on a very attractive landing page with extremely clear call to actions all above the fold, and make sure that your mobile experience is insane, because that's where 90% of your traffic is going to be.
Great. Perfect. I love it. April, you're next.
I would ask myself, if I was the person that I am looking to sell this to and I had their challenge, what would I want help with? How would I want to be spoken to? And whether it's in person or digitally, tell the story of how you can help them and tell it well.
Amazing. Thank you. Nitin?
I would say relevance. Find your audience you want to speak to, and bring relevancy to what you are offering. Once you are relevant to them, you are sorted.
Excellent. Thank you. And Jose?
Even from the very beginning, you have a brand because people know you for something. So reach out to these connections, ask them who do they know that you should know, and also ask them to do some introductions for you. And this is something you can apply at the beginning and you can apply all throughout. Look for stages as well where you can connect with your audience and speak. You've got stories that are related to your business, that are related to the things you can do for other human beings. Look for stages. Never stop looking for stages. Thank you.
Excellent. Awesome. Thanks so much. So look, there you have it. Don't try to scale until you have a clear product market fit. Your story matters. Let's try to make sure yours is clear and resonates with your audience. As Ben can come later to increase touch points, and serving your existing clients and getting them to become Raven fans is key. Our next Wiser Wednesday will be on the power of purpose. So in my personal view, that massively drives growth. So that's my experience. If you have any questions, welcome to reach out to everyone here on LinkedIn. I'm sure they'd be happy for you to do so. Finally, thanks to the panelists. You've been awesome. Thank you to everyone for listening today, and I hope you feel slightly wiser this Wednesday as a result. So thank you. Cheers, everyone.
Had a great time, guys. Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Thank you, James.